Today we're going to take a look at our Nikon F to Nikon Z ND Throttle lens adapter. This is a lens adapter with a built-in variable neutral density filter. As you can see, as we turn this ring, we're going from 2 to 8 stops of ND filtration. And having a variable neutral density filter built into a lens adapter is a really useful tool. Rather than having to put a VND filter on the front of your lens, it's built directly into your lens adapter. This is especially useful if you're adapting various lenses with various filter thread sizes, rather than having to have multiple VND filters for each lens or having to use step-up rings. The VND filter is built right in the adapter and it is ready to use whenever you need it. Now, how exactly are we able to adapt Nikon F lenses to a Nikon Z camera? Well, it all comes down to focal flange distance. These Nikon F lenses were designed for Nikon F DSLRs and SLRs, and the SLR system has a mirror, and the mirror has to go up and down while you're taking photos, so there needs to be quite a bit of space between where the lens mounts and where the film plane or digital plane is, and that's where they would put the mirror. And because the Nikon Z mirrorless system has a much shorter focal flange distance between where the camera mounts and where the sensor is, we actually have that extra space for an adapter. Now we could just put a standard metal ring there, a standard lens adapter, or we can make a lens adapter with a built-in feature like a variable neutral density filter. Here's how to mount a Nikon F lens on this adapter. We're just going to line up the mounting dot on the lens. This one's a little tricky to find, but we're going to line it up with the red mounting dot on the adapter. Press the lens into the adapter and rotate it to lock it into place. And one of the cool things about this adapter is it has its own aperture control ring. This little black ring right here, these little white dots. This ring is designed to control Nikon F mount lenses that do not have a manual aperture control ring. Now this is an older Nikon F lens, so it does have manual aperture control, so I can just use that. But with a newer Nikon F mount lens, you might not have this control ring. So that's why we put this ring in the adapter. When we rotate it, you can see we're actually opening and closing the aperture. And it's a smooth, unclicked adjustment as well, which is great if you're shooting video and you want to smoothly iris in and out rather than having the clicked aperture control. I'll show you here. You know, when I'm turning the aperture ring on the lens, it's a clicked adjustment. You know, it clicks between the different apertures. Whereas when I'm turning the aperture ring on the adapter, it's a smooth iris. So this can be really useful for filmmakers. Okay, let's mount the lens and adapter on the camera. Just line up the red mounting dot on the adapter with the white mounting dot on this Nikon Z6, and then rotate the adapter to lock it to the camera. There we go. Now we're adapting this vintage Nikon F lens to our modern Nikon Z mirrorless camera, and we've got the built-in variable neutral density filter. We're just going to control it with this ring. We can go from 2 stops here all the way to 8 stops of ND filtration. And VND filtration is a great tool for filmmakers. Let's say you want to shoot wide open. This is an f1.8 lens. You want to shoot wide open, get that beautiful bokeh with your lens. Well, when you're shooting wide open in bright conditions, you are basically having to use a very fast shutter speed to compensate. So much light is coming through the lens, you're gonna have to speed your shutter speed way up. And that's fine for photography, but if you're shooting video and you want smooth cinematic motion, you don't wanna be shooting at a 1/250th of a second shutter. That creates very jittery video. So let's say you're shooting at 24p, 24 frames a second, you are going to want to set your shutter speed at around 1/50th of a second. Now that is going to be completely overexposed with this lens set at f1.8 and with this camera, even if the ISO on this camera is set at ISO 100. So to compensate for that, you're going to need an ND filter to cut the light coming through the lens so you can have a correct exposure. And all we have to do with our ND throttle adapter is crank in the VND, cut the light coming through the lens, and just like that, we have a correct exposure, shallow depth of field cinematic video. Now, if you don't make videos, if you only shoot photography, V&D filters are still very useful. Sometimes you're going to be shooting wide open and it's going to be so bright, having a little bit of ND filtration is going to help with your exposure. Even if you're not shooting video, it's still nice to have it. Also, with a VND filter, you get a little bit of circular polarization. Now, this isn't a CPL filter, but it does have that as part of the effect. And this can help with colors. It can help reduce reflections, and it can just make for a more vibrant image. Another great use for variable neutral density filters is long exposure photography. Let's say you're shooting a long exposure with your adapted Nikon F lens. You've got the lens stopped down. You've got your ISO set pretty low. If it's bright conditions, even with those settings, you aren't going to get a very long exposure. But with a 2 to 8 stop ND filter, let's say you crank all the way to 8 stops of ND filtration, now you can shoot a much longer exposure. Because the ND filter is cutting the light, you can slow down your shutter speed way more. You can go to a couple seconds of a long exposure, and you can create beautiful, blurred, long exposure photos like these. Now, there's a lot more I could say about VND filters, but this is just a simple video showing our ND Throttle adapter and what you can do with it. Now, we don't just make a Nikon F to Nikon Z ND Throttle adapter. We make an entire line of ND throttles for the Nikon Z to adapt various lens mounts to your Nikon Z camera with the VND filter built in. We also make ND Throttle adapters for other lenses and other camera mounts. So if you'd like to learn more about our Nikon F to Nikon Z ND Throttle or any of the ND Throttle adapters we offer, click the link in the description below. And if you have any questions or comments about anything I said in today's video, comment below. I'd love to help you out. Also, click right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos just like this one. I'm Sean with Fotodiox.com, and thanks for watching.